today. My name is Josh Karachi. I am the tour consultant here at EF Go Ahead Tours that works specifically in the Olli space. Actually, was very fortunate. Last month, was able to travel with the Olli from Kentucky to Greece. So very knowledgeable about Olli travel, and really excited for the first opportunity for EF to partner with both West Virginia's Olli and the Retiree Association. Talk a little bit about the tour we are launching today. So a quick background, we'll talk a little bit about Go Ahead Tours. Again, mentioned this is the first time that we have had the privilege of being able to work directly with our friends here in West Virginia. Talk about our tour highlights, some excursions, some optional, even an extension on this tour if you want to hang out a little bit longer. Talk about pricing details, and of course, offer a really nice early bird discount for folks that want to enroll and put their deposit down over the next 2 weeks. And then at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions. So I would say if questions arise throughout the presentation, feel free to go ahead and pop them in the chat or write them down. Know that you'll have an opportunity to hop off mute at the end. And me and my wonderful account manager, Morgan, will be here to answer any questions you may have. But before we get into the presentation, we do like to share a fun little video to get us excited to think about travel. So that's a nice, fun little preview for us here at Go Ahead Tours. Go Ahead is the adult tour division of EF, which stands for Education First. Another reason I think that we partner so well in the Olli space, when I'm first able to connect with directors like Jascenna, I explained very much up front. My intention is one, to form a long-lasting partnership, so do many tours with the Olli into the future, but also it is not to we're not selling a vacation. And the reason I say that is we're selling an educational travel experience, which of course with Olli members and the Retiree Association, like we've got folks who want to go do some active travel and also learn some things along the way, which is what we are really well suited to do. One of the reasons we're so well suited to do that is we have the experience being many places across the world and also here domestically. Fun fact, EF's parent office for the United States is actually in Boston. So if you choose to join the group, you will actually be meeting some additional staff who will come visit with you on the tail end of the tour before going home, which I think is a pretty fun fact. But in addition to that, if you look on the map there, all those little blue dots are places we have physical offices, locations, employees, schools all across the world, which really kind of shows the true global nature of EF as a company. Why is this important? I just think it's nice to know when you are traveling with a company that they are truly represented all the places you are potentially going, which EF is uniquely positioned to make that statement be accurate. In addition to the travel department, we actually got our start 60 years ago now as a language learning school. Our founder was Swedish and he needed to learn English or wanted to learn English and then bring that knowledge to other folks that were in a similar position to him, which is why you see such a strong presence there in the European market. But from there, again, as you can see, we've truly grown across the globe. In addition to the language learning schools, we have cultural exchange programs, academic study. We actually have an MBA program on the campus up there in Boston. And then most people, if you've ever done any travel, specifically right around now in the summertime, if you're in the airport and you see the swaths of students with the EF backpacks on, that is kind of what many people know us for. But today's tour, this is not a student tour, even though many of our Olli members are still students. This is going to be an adult tour. We'll talk about what that means here in a second. I think also talking about why travel matters. We've already mentioned, of course, the great connection between the EF partnership and the Olli in the Olli travel space. I think all times that it's important. I was a teacher myself. Both Morgan and I were both teachers ourselves in a previous life before working for EF. but knowing that people learn in different ways. And my favorite way to learn personally is learning through experience. And while you can get some really amazing information and context from studying, and now we live in a world where you can go online and learn and see so many things that way, I truly don't think there's a better way to learn and experience than by travel. So it's no surprise that we both kind of ended up where we are now. And we would like, of course, to be, are excited to be able to offer that type of experience to our OLLI and retiree members as well. And now thinking a little bit about the guided group experience. So you saw that, you might have noticed there in the clip, make it easy, go guided. What does that really mean? Especially for folks that probably are a little more experienced traveler, what is the value of doing a tour like this? And I think it's important to know that we think there is a lot of value, but what does it look like? So guided group travel, that of course is taking, from a operation standpoint, what we're able to do is take really unique experiences, and then we're able to combine them with other like-minded individuals, such as other OLLI members. And then we're able to create an experience and do a lot of things that if you were to do it independently would carry a pretty hefty price tag associated with it. So we want to give you that value with also, of course, expanding on the social aspect that when you travel with a group of people, you might know some of them, you might not know some of them, and it gives you an opportunity to make new friends that are in your community. So when you come back, so not only are you having a great time together on the trip, potentially creating new friendships for when you're back home. So ways to do that, of course, Morgan knows this about me, but like I am a food traveler, so I like to go places that have really good food. I've also been very fortunate. I know a lot of the places I've been to, actually every place that your tour is going. I am originally from Michigan, but grew up with many of my family members located between Massachusetts and Maine. So two places that this tour goes. And then spent some time after college living in the Northeast. So we're able to visit some of the other places. So I can, during that question and answer section, feel free to ask. I've been to places this tour is going. I can speak to them directly. But as you see there, the picture of the lobster roll there with the lighthouse in the background, they are better in Maine. I will speak from experience there, but also plenty of other good seafood and other good food of the Northeast for you to experience. But we're not just there to eat, we're there to learn, we're there to see, of course, for a fall foliage tour, see the beautiful sights that nature will provide us, which actually makes this tour a little unique. I was thinking about that. We don't usually spend a lot of time talking about the transportation angle of our trips, but that's because usually there's not as many beautiful things to see when you look out the window. So not only will we want you to be getting off the bus and of course seeing the leaves and meeting the locals and tasting the food outside of the bus, but this trip is unique because I think there's just as much to enjoy when you're getting from point A to point B because of the natural scenery that will be provided in that region during this time of year. But when you are outside of the bus, again, mentioning we think learning is experienced hands-on. Ways that we want to make sure that's accelerated and really brought to life is we fill our tours with individuals like our full-time tour directors and our local guides. So those are the individuals who are from the area. They know the places intimately that we're going. They can speak from experience being locals themselves. So these are the type of folks who are with you throughout the tour. Your tour director is actually with you from the time you land until the time you go home. Reason being is they are there to really, one, keep the tour flowing in a correct manner, but they are handling all the things so you don't have to. They are checking us into the hotels when we are going out to eat. They're handling the reservations when we're going to cultural sites or things that need ticketing. They're doing all that so when you show up, you can just enjoy. The guided tours are run by locals, and those are folks in addition to your tour director who again are providing their local insight. And then also to make it as easy and comfortable as experience as possible, we think about things like personalized flight options. We give you the ability to bundle flights into your order if you kind of want to keep it all in-house and just make one payment that takes care of everything. Or if you don't want to and you've got miles saved up or you prefer to do it yourself, we don't force you to do flights. So it's very much you pick them and add them if you want. And Morgan will talk about in a little bit in a couple other slides some advantages if you do choose to go that route. And then also thinking about hand-picked hotels. Mentioned before, this is not a student tour. This is an adult tour. Well, what does that mean, Josh? I think when you travel as an adult, balance is as important as anything, meaning we want to make sure there's activities each day for us to enjoy. We want to get value out of this experience. We also don't want to go to bed maybe necessarily exhausted because we didn't have any time to relax and feel like we could kind of just enjoy the non-tour parts of it. So one of the ways that we make sure our folks are coming back feeling balanced and enjoyed at the end of one of our trips is making sure we keep a certain standard with hotels. I mentioned before, a lot of this is about making sure you can use the advantage of traveling as a group to provide additional value financially. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to skimp on quality. We have a 4-star standard for the hotels we work with, and that's because there might be days in the middle of the tour where you're choosing to take advantage of free time and you just want to relax at the hotel. We want to make sure these are nice, comfortable, high quality accommodations that allow you to do so. Now let's think about where we're actually going. So if we have any friends with our phones out, know that you can scan that QR code. It'll take you directly to the dedicated trip website. But if you don't feel like doing that or don't have your phone with you, don't worry. This is the type of information that will be sent out directly after the meeting that will take you to the website for the tour. But just kind of seeing here, things that are already set in stone are dates. So know that if you are doing what we call the base tour, that's September 27th through October 4th, 2026. And then if you are looking to do the extension, which means stay a couple additional days in Boston, you can actually choose to extend your stay in Boston all the way until October 6th. One thing you might notice is that, yes, this trip is not for this upcoming fall, but for the following fall. And that partially is due to 2 reasons. One, these are, of course, very high demand times to go to the Northeast. So our options for dates for this fall were pretty limited, and we wanted to make sure we were going there at the best possible time. Secondly, we also know that this trip is a financial investment. So by planning it over a year away, we want to make sure we give people the time to do things like put a deposit down early to secure their spot, and then spread out that cost over a much longer period of time. So maybe you're going with a friend or a couple, that way you can budget correctly. So those are 2 of the reasons why we did pick a date for fall of 26. And I was even joking with Morgan beforehand. The week after we put this request in, we had 2 people seeing if this trip was running because they wanted those dates already. So even though it's that far out, these dates are in high demand. So we are happy that we were able to tell them, no, these are our West Virginia dates. I'm sorry, you're going to have to find a different time. So thinking about things that are included on the tour, 7 nights in those hand-picked quality hotels, breakfast every day, deluxe motor coach. As we mentioned before, I know if you've ever either participated in or joined one of the meetings at West Virginia's, specifically with the OLLI, some of their previous travel, that those were called consolidated tours, meaning they were given a certain amount of spots on a public tour, meaning you were going to be paired with people that maybe were from a different part of the country, but that you did not know. The goal with this tour is to make it a private tour. The caveat to make it a private tour, we just need 14 people to sign up. So from my experience with OLLI, that is very much the norm. But an advantage for that is we are not going to be consolidated with people from across the country we don't know. We are keeping this a community trip. A lot of times that might be an extra motivator for folks to know. The reason I bring up the private deluxe motor coach is when we are going from place to place, we are not sharing that bus with other people that are not part of our group either. So we're going there in the fall. The example I always use, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's fall or not. My wife is always consistently a little chilly. She layers up. She likes having different, jackets and things like that. If that is you, just know that you can leave them on the bus. You don't have to worry about bringing them with you. So a small additional benefit of the private experience. That expert tour director and local guide, I always say, imagine going and doing a trip like this and hiring a personal guide. That would be $5,000 alone. So nice to know that you're not doing that as an individual. You're doing that for a group and spreading out that cost. And of course, 5 sightseeing tours, 2 group dinners with optional beer or wine if you partake, 2 additional food tastings. It's really fun. It's a unique part of the country that offers a lot of great food in addition to just the seafood. And then 1 additional wine tasting. One thing that's not included on the inclusions, but you see there in the highlights, we are actually going to Mount Washington, which is in New Hampshire, where you will be doing an additional, it's a shorter, but it's a train ride up to the top of the mountain, which is a really unique experience we're able to offer. I think that makes this trip extra unique. And of course, in addition to that, doing things like actually visiting the Trapp Family Lodge, if you have any Sound of Music fans, going to the Ben and Jerry factory tour in Burlington, which I've done multiple times. It is very good. Cider mill visit and tasting. You're there in the fall, the best time to do that. Being able to see things like Portland's Old Port, which is the historic part of Portland, Kennebunkport. If we have any Bush, like not the royal family, but like the presidential family Bush. That is actually where the Bushes are originally from, not from Texas. Salem, if we have any historians or witch trial enthusiasts, and of course, doing the Freedom Trail in Boston. In the spirit of what I just did in covering the reviews, this is when I make the corny joke about I used to be a teacher, which means nobody wants to fall asleep right now and hear me read line for line everything your trip is going to do. That's why I said, don't worry, there will be a full breakdown of the tour will be shared with everyone who RSVP'd to this meeting at the end of the presentation, but I will do a quick review. One thing that's nice in difference of or kind of a little bit of different comparison, usually day one for a lot of trips we do is an international travel day, but because we're keeping this domestic, you actually arrive on site on day one, flying from an airport of your choice. We've got flights priced out of Pittsburgh, but you don't have to do that if you prefer to fly out of a different airport. But arriving in Burlington, a small regional airport, and then if you do flights with us, we handle the transportation to get you to the hotel, get you settled in, and get ready for day two, which is your first sightseeing tour of Vermont. It's also the first day we're fully together. We know traveling on day one, people would prefer to just get to their hotel and kind of relax. So we will be doing our welcome dinner at the end of our sightseeing on day two, where we will kind of break bread together as a group and get to know each other a little better after hanging out together for the day. If you see there, that's a picture of Burlington up there in the upper right-hand corner. Try to pick all pictures with the fall foliage theme. And then mentioned before, the Trapp Family Lodge, that is the picture there on the bottom right. The inspiration from the family from The Sound of Music. Continuing on to day three, a transportation day in the morning, making our way from Burlington to the White Mountains region in New Hampshire. Those pictures are not edited to make them look any prettier than they are. That's what it looks like in real life. Mentioned before, it is really unique because in between transportation, you will have such a scenic backdrop. But a fun day. This is actually some things that you get to, mentioning that this is a transportation day, but another thing I want to assure everyone, this is not a bus tour, meaning this is not just everyone on the bus the whole time. Even when we have to transport from point A to point B, we want to break those drives up to not only give people the chance to stretch their legs, but also see some unique things. There's a lot of history and culture in between those different points where we're staying. An example on day three is like being able to go to a local family-owned sugar shack, which again, thinking about the things you'll bring home with you, I wouldn't be surprised if you're inclined to bring home some fresh maple syrup. So get to see how those things are produced and actually visit with locals, support the local economy. The highway there you see in the bottom right hand, one of the most scenic highways in the entire country during leaf peeping season. We of course prioritize keeping you on all the best routes for that. And then before finally getting settled for the night, we do stop and do into a local cheese shop to do a tasting of the local fare. Continuing on to Maine, as I mentioned before, I'm a little biased toward Maine with having been able to be there so many times with family growing up. Portland is a really beautiful place to visit. I think it's also unique because it gives you the chance to see the biggest city in Maine, which isn't a really big city. It's not like going to a New York or even in this chance of Boston, but it's really beautiful. It's on the water, has a real, I think it's actually an up and coming food scene. If you are a foodie type traveler, could be one where we've got some free evenings. If you want to make some reservations in advance, you will already know the days to be able to do that. But as I mentioned before, on day four, before we even get to Portland, we will be stopping at Mount Washington and taking the Cog Railway, which allows you to get to the top of the mountain without having to hike that up yourself. So a really unique way to see the scenery that is the mountain right there behind you in the first picture. And I mentioned before, once we get to Portland, spending some time in Old Port neighborhood, which is the historic district in Portland. I mentioned before, some great food, some really great history you'll learn about as you make your way to Maine. So continuing after we are still staying in Portland for our accommodations, but day 5 is almost like a day trip down to Kennebunkport. Mentioned before, that is the home place of the Bush family. There's some unique ways to go see some of their properties down there along the water. But in addition, it's really, I would say it is it's one of those, not to be cheesy, but like almost like a Hallmark movie type of town where it's quintessential New England. I've been there multiple times. There's essentially just 2 streets filled with really unique, cute little shops, ice cream shops, places to get souvenirs, but also, again, learn about the history of the town. And then in the evening, we will go back to Portland, but you have the option, you see there highlighted in yellow, lobster roll and oyster shucking class. So anytime you see anything highlighted in yellow in this presentation, that's what's considered an optional excursion, which means if you want to do it, there is free time built in for you to add it. But if you don't want to do it, you do not have to. So, of course, if you opted not to do it, that would be free time in Portland to enjoy the afternoon and evening as you see fit. But if you do want to do it, those are really fun. Those are the gloves you wear in that picture there to make sure that when you are using the small oyster knife that you don't accidentally take a chunk out of your hand in the process. I've done that one before. It is really fun. But also, if seafood is not your thing, don't worry about it. Don't add it. And we continue on day 6, making our way down the coast from Maine down to Boston. We do a stop in historic Salem. There's the picture there in the upper right hand corner. Again, whether you are, there's a lot of rich, of course, like American history from the time of the Revolution. If you want to go a little farther back, if you have any interest in the spookier things, of course, there's of course a lot of opportunities to learn about the real history that is behind things like the Salem witch trials. So I do encourage doing some little research on the front end, so you're coming in informed. But of course, you'll learn plenty when you're on the ground there. But then later in the evening on day 6, making your way to Boston, which is where our final stop of the tour in terms of places we are staying, and really get to see, again, Boston at a beautiful time of the year as the leaves are changing in the city as well. One fun thing to add about Boston is that through an additional advantage of the fact that my role specifically, or me and Morgan, our team, we specifically work in the OLLI space. Another OLLI that we are currently partnered with is the OLLI at UMass at Boston. And I was letting them know that there's a chance that our friends from West Virginia are going to be coming up. And while still plenty of time to get it figured out, but they were very interested in the idea of doing a meet and greet. So being able to meet other OLLI members from Boston, get their perspective on the town. Of course, probably get a chance for people to get together during some free time and maybe share a meal or just do some little additional sightseeing together. No, that is not technically built into the tour, but it is something that we are together working to facilitate, which I think would be another really unique way to kind of have this be a really kind of different type of experience, not just like going up just to see the colors. So as you see on day 7, a full sightseeing tour of Boston. And if you are choosing to not do the extension, this is when our last full day as a group will be, which is why you see our farewell dinner is built into the evening of day 7. And then just like we saw when we were in Portland with the lobster roll and oyster shucking class, you have the option to add an excursion at the end of in the middle of the day, because realistically this is sightseeing in the morning, optional excursion in the late morning into early afternoon, and then the group as a whole will come back together for that farewell dinner. If you are choosing to say that's good, I love the tour, I'm ready to go home, on day 8 you would either be departing, or if you were saying, hey, Boston is a bigger city, I think there's some more things I'd like to explore there, I'm going to hang out and add the extension on. Instead of going home on day 8, you would of course be continuing in your hotel and then adding 2 additional days in Boston. If you add the extension on, day 8 is actually, we're going to be taking a little bit of another one of those day trips heading down to Plymouth. Another, again, visiting a lot of historical things like the Pilgrim Memorial National Park, which is the picture you see there in the upper right-hand corner. And again, learning more about that revolutionary history and even pre-revolutionary, thinking about getting to go see Plymouth Rock and really learn about the original Pilgrim inhabitants here in that part of the country. And then day 9, knowing that tail end of the tour, from our experience, when folks add the extension on, one of the desires of adding the extension is they just want some additional free time in that city or region, wherever it is. So that is why on day 9, you have an optional free day in Boston, which is if you choose not to add the last extension, is a completely free day. Of course, your tour director is there to give you ideas and hints if you want some additional things to do. But if you are the type of person who'd rather say, go ahead, I'm here to be with the travel company, you guys can help me with something to do on that day, that's why you see the theater and Boston Common walking tour last optional excursion there on day 9. Again, talking about those 3 excursions, they are totally optional. Things to know about them. Even if you want to do them, there's no pressure to sign up for them when you put your deposit down. We have plenty of time between now and when this trip departs next fall. Well, I guess a year from this upcoming fall. So know that you can come back and make up your mind and add them on even when you are on tour. The only advantage I would say for adding them on before tour is if you add them on during tour, the cost goes up $10. So I'd say save yourself the money, but totally your option, whether you want to add them on at the time of when you enroll, later on in between enrollment and leaving, or even when you're on tour itself. And now I'm going to take a quick breath and pass it over to Morgan to talk a little bit about your travel coverage options.
Yeah, my name's Morgan. I'm the account manager that would be working with you. So if you decide to get signed up on the trip, I would be your point of contact for questions about the things I'm going to go over here or any other additional questions that come up. I'll be sharing my direct line, my email. So the first thing, travel protection. I'm sure everyone loves talking about paying for insurance. But one thing that is enjoyable to think about is if anything were to happen, or if you did have to cancel your trip, getting reimbursed for the cost. Or if that oyster shucking excursion, if you did have an accident, knowing that you're fully covered if something unexpected comes up. Before I kind of go into the details to the 2 travel protections that we have available to add to your reservation, I'll give you just an example. Myself, I was in Thailand last November on a trip. I had the best 14 days, but I was looking forward to getting home. I was supposed to arrive the day before Thanksgiving, and the largest winter weather event to ever hit South Korea happened, and all our flights were halted for 3 additional days. Originally, they told me 5 additional days. So I was looking at 5 extra days in the hotel, missing Thanksgiving, needing to purchase food. Luckily, I had added the trip protection. So I was covered for all of that. All of the expenses that were accrued during those 5 days were covered. I also had the 24/7 on-tour support team that available to answer questions. So it made that whole scenario a lot less stressful, knowing that I didn't have to think about missing Thanksgiving as well as all this extra cost. So we offer 2 different types of trip protection. They cover all the same thing, just in different amounts. So we have the basic trip protection, covers up to $25,000 worth of coverage, and then the total $50,000 worth of coverage. So if something were to happen, accident, sickness that prevented you from going on the trip, then you would be covered if you had to cancel, but then it also covers you when on the trip. So if there's an expense due to your flight being canceled, delayed, airline losing your luggage, you need to buy new clothes, all of that covered. What it can't cover is something unrelated to a travel delay or unrelated to accident, sickness. So an example I always give is if my dog got sick, I wouldn't want to go on a trip. I wouldn't want to leave her, but trip the insurance company wouldn't accept that as a reason. And that's when the any reason protection is really useful. It's something that we offer. You can add it on to the basic trip protection or the total trip protection for 75 additional dollars. Instead of fully losing the cancellation cost, you would get that amount in the form of a voucher for a future trip. If you add the total trip protection at the time of getting signed up, at the time of booking, then we add that for no additional cost. Again, that's just useful for things that aren't covered under insurance. So think the dog or someone plans a wedding, things like that.
In the industry, there's a very corny story about a woman who got a very bad haircut and how she refused to go on tour because she did not want to be seen in any photographs. And of course, we can all giggle because we know that's a pretty ridiculous example, but technically, under that type of protection, that would give you an out for any reason, including
Yeah.
a bad job at the salon. But no. And then, sorry, we're gonna forget. Did you mention too? The nice thing is that there's no escalators for age, which I think in our alley with our alley friends, we know the tour I was just on with Kentucky, we had multiple members who were over between 75 and 85. And one thing that they know they mentioned to me they really liked is that when they added insurance, it did not go up $1 because they were in what some insurance consider like a higher age bracket. So we are also happy to offer that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then flights. Are you someone that just wants to go on the trip, have all the fun experiences, have it be hassle-free, not have to think about organizing your own transportation there? If that's you, I highly recommend the go ahead flights. We take care of finding an itinerary that has you fly into the one city, fly out of the other city. With our flights come airport transfers. So when you arrive, getting you to the hotel. If you're leaving from the same area, we make sure you fly together. If you have a request that would go through me, I could submit that. If there's any sort of schedule change with the airline or an airline cancels a flight altogether, we help monitor that and readjust what you're booked on if needed. Um, and yeah, I always think of an example. I had a group that was heading to Europe and they're like 40 days before departure, and the airline decided to cancel that flight. And that's stressful. That's not fun to have people having to, be calling, be looking at, well, what's the new option? In this scenario, luckily the whole group had flights with us. So our team handled that. Our team was able to move them all to a new itinerary, still fly together, and get to the trip on time. If you want to look at some sort of upgrade, flying premium economy, business class, I can help with that. I can submit that request. About 6 months prior to the trip, I send an email out um, asking for if anyone has a request, that they communicate it to me, and then I submit it to the travel team and follow up with you if there's an additional cost, like in regards to a cabin upgrade. For those of you that think or you are thinking you're going to want to purchase your own flights, you can absolutely do that. My recommendation would be add the go ahead flights up now and then look online, see what flights are available. Think about, do you want to handle that yourself? Do you have enough points to cover a flight or not? You can remove our go ahead flights up until 70 days before departure. Yeah, what you need? Well, I guess you don't need a passport. We're so used to talking about international trips, but you would need to add what we call your TSA information. So name, date of birth, gender as it appears on your driver's license or whatever form of identity you plan on traveling with. We would need that information. you're already here. There's no sort of country entry requirements. But if anything came up, we'd communicate that with you.
Yeah, I think the only thing we'll need now is just you have to have the real state ID with the little
Oh,
star on it. That
that's so
that
true. Yes. If you don't have that, but you have a passport, you could travel with the passport then.
All right, thanks, Morgan. Now talking a little bit about the different ways to put your deposit down if you're interested in joining. We offer these three. I want to say before I even talk about them, nothing that Go Ahead offers is done through a third party. We do not charge interest. This is not financing. This is purely just three different ways that we want to make sure our trips are made as accessible as possible to people interested in joining them. Of course, if you prefer not to deal with monthly payments or having to worry about it, you have the option to pay in full at enrollment. It's not as traditional, but technically it is an option if that's easier for you. The majority of people who do need to take their financial investment and figure out whatever is the most efficient chunks to pay it down that are going to work for them. That is why we offer both an auto pay function, which requires a smaller deposit of $99. This allows you to put your deposit down, secure your spot on the tour, and then you can pick a day of the month that an equal payment over whatever your balance is equally debited up until 70 days before your trip departs, which is when your tour needs to be paid off. The other thing to know about this is it does require a funding source, meaning it has to be done using a checking account or a debit card. I am married to an accountant who is very adamant that we earn points on the purchases we make, which is why if you'd prefer to use a credit card, we do not force you to do the auto pay. There is the manual payment option. It does have a higher deposit from 99 to 450, but it does allow you to use the two credit cards that we accept, Visa and MasterCard. And there is a third technical option where you can combine the two. What is actually we're seeing is becoming the most common is people will sign up for the auto pay. That way they have the set payment coming out every month, a little bit of the set it and forget it style. But what they will do is they will self-service and either call into us or go onto their online account and make chunk payments using a credit card so they can still earn some points. But then of course, if you make a chunk payment with your credit card, your overall balance is reduced, which means those monthly payments, which would of course get smaller. And you can also go back and forth between them. You do not have to stay. If you pick one when you enroll, you have the ability to again, alternate or do combinations, whatever you feel is best for your current situation. So now looking at the cost of the tour, and of course, a great discount we're able to offer. So one thing I think that surprises people when we do both international and domestic trips is that on average, our domestic tours can be more expensive than international trips, which this tour is, it's a great tour. It has a lot included, but it is not a small financial investment. I want to make sure that is said out loud because I think sometimes it surprises people. Big reason for that is just domestic hotels are a lot more expensive, specifically when we are targeting a trip of this nature, which is going to a specific region of the country in the most popular time of the year for doing it. A great thing about Go Ahead is because we have the buying power we do, we are able to pre-secure a lot of those hotel rooms for our trips. As I mentioned before, even though this trip is in 2026, we had two other groups inquiring about our dates, but of course we have them. They've had to find other ones. But with that being said, group travel is done also traditionally using the double occupancy model, meaning two people traveling as roommates, whether that's friends, partners, whatever it might be. So that is the cost you see per person in the upper left-hand corner. We also know some people are just not looking to travel with a friend or a partner. So that is why we always have a finite number of single rooms on our tour. I mentioned before, the hotel costs are higher. So the single occupancy additional cost is $1,420 for this trip. That is why you see those numbers reflecting with that built in there on the left-hand side. I would say though, if you do know you want to secure a single room and you're not looking to travel with someone, an extra big reason to put your deposit could be as low as 99 down as soon as possible, because those single rooms are always the first to sell out for any of our tours. So get them while they are available. After the 5 have sold out, if there is a need or request to have additional single rooms, we do have the ability to request them, but they are on a per request basis. So in each one will be dealt with individually, but we can for sure guarantee at least 5. In addition to the cost of the tour, of course, if you are going to add any of those excursions or add the additional extension for the additional nights in Boston, those are something that you can either add at the time of reserving your spot or add on after the fact. But of course, that's how much things cost. We want to make sure we save you some money as well. If you actually go to the website, I don't want it to seem confusing, it will show you a $75 discount. Luckily, due to the team that me and Morgan sit on, we actually have the ability to double that discount during our promotional window, which is the first 2 weeks of when we launch a tour. So today is the first time anyone's getting access to the tour. So actually 2 weeks in a day. So if you have up until the 20th of June to put your deposit down to get $150 off per person. So that's $300 per pairing. And if you see it only as 75 online, know that we will individually go in and audit that to reflect the full 150. There are set number of spots on the tour, 25 spots left. As I mentioned, this tour will run at 14, which will allow us to have that private departure, because of course our goal is to keep our group within the retiree and OLLI community at West Virginia. And then thinking about things you're responsible for. So in addition to the cost of the tour, it is expected, of course, that assuming adequate and above adequate service is provided by the folks who are servicing your tour, that is your tour director, your local guides, occasionally, not every day is going to have a local guide, and your bus driver, that budgeting between 12 and 15 US dollars per day. You tip the bus driver and your tour director at the end of the trip. You don't tip them daily. The only person you might be doing a tip for in the moment is those local guides who are integrated to the guided sightseeing experiences on certain days of the tour. Of course, some meals are included, but budgeting for non-included meals. Additional daily spending money. Mentioned before, you might want to bring some maple syrup home or some additional souvenirs from along the travel, just kind of making sure you have that in mind. Overweight or extra luggage. Traditionally, because this is a domestic flight, just a carry-on bag is included with your airline ticket. If you want to purchase an additional check bag, that is something that once your flights are ticketed either through us or done independently, that you would work out directly with the airline. And then no passport reminder for us, just making sure you have that real state ID with the little star on. That is all you need to travel. All right, we are at the final slide. I did see a question pop into the chat, but just before we jump into the question section, again, enrollment is open as of today. So I know that there will be communication going out directly with the group to book your spots or put your deposit down as early as this afternoon. As long as you do put your deposit down between now and June 20th, you will get that $150 off per person. In addition to the email that will go out, the same thing that you see here will be in that email. You have 3 ways to book. You can either call our team at the 1-800 number you see there. Please just reference the OLLI West Virginia 2026 New England Fall Foliage Tour with Jascenna as your group coordinator. Or you can visit our website, which don't worry about writing it down. That link will be shared with everyone who RSVP'd after the meeting. Or third, also, a second link will go out. This is actually becoming our most popular method. It will allow you to pick a time that works for you, and a member of our reservation team will reach out to you in regards to the trip. So you can call in, you can have us call you, or you can go online, whichever you are most comfortable with. And one last reminder, you will just see a $75 discount if you go to the website, but know that we will be manually adjusting those accounts to reflect the full $150 per person, assuming you put your deposit down between now and the 20th. All right, let me go ahead and grab the question from the chat, and then we can let folks come off mute if they have any additional questions that we have not covered. Oh yes, do you help people find roommates? Great question, Linda. So in the email that will go out to everyone, I did reference it. We have the ability to, it's usually done in combination with your group coordinator. So know that you can enroll or request to be enrolled as a as someone who needs a roommate. And then what we like to do is work to facilitate a conversation between you and another individual who is in the same situation. And we want to make sure you can talk to each other. You seem like, you get along, that you're open to being roommates. And then once you both confirm to us that you're open to it, we go ahead and we switch your order from a single room into a double room. So any single room cost would immediately go away once you are booked into a roommate situation.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend getting signed up in the private room, especially because those rooms are limited. I wouldn't want them to not be available. But then, yeah, communicate with us or with the OLLI program that you would be interested, and we can kind of compile that list and see who we could pair together.
Thank you, everyone who took the time out of their day to enjoy the presentation. We hope we did a good job. Thank you for the folks who are saying they're going to go enroll. So I guess those we can estimate there might be a couple less spots than the ones we originally published today. So appreciate all our early adopters. As we mentioned before, if you do enroll online and you just see the 75, we will be manually adjusting that to the 150. It is being recorded. It is in stone. Everyone is entitled to that full discount. And if you've ever done an EF trip before, you'd actually qualify for an additional $100 off. You don't have to pick the better one. We can stack those for you, which is another great reason as our partnerships with the OLLI grows for future tours. Not only are those vouchers really nice if you had to use one to do a future trip, but in addition, you'd be able to get some additional benefits as a repeat traveler. Take a look again for the communication going out to everyone who RSVP'd with enrollment instructions. And we are here. Once you enroll, Morgan will be your direct point of contact. So this will definitely not be the last time you will be seeing us. And also prior to the meeting or prior to departure, we actually will get together for another virtual session around a month before this trip leaves, where we'll cover just all of the basics for getting ready to get on the road and all the, making sure everyone's excited about the tour. So with that, I didn't know, Justine, if you have anything else you wanted to cover before we let everybody get back to their day.